So we have speaking a lot about authorities, roles, privileges to control user level access and user level actions that he or she can perform inside any secure application. But if you ask me, where does all these authorities or roles, privileges, details are stored inside Spring Security? The answer is user details itself. If you can remember from the previous videos, user details is a contract which is maintained by Spring Security where all the details associated to an user will be stored. It includes his authentication details, username, email, password, along with the authorities. So inside user details interface, if we go and check, we have a method called get authorities and it will return a collection of granted authority. Granted authority is again an interface which has a single method called get authority which will return the authority name in a string format. This indicates a single user can have multiple authorities, roles, like as an user, I may have both read, write authorities. In such scenarios, user details has the flexibility to maintain all my authorities details in a collection. And we store all these authorities details using granted authority interface. And inside this interface, we have a method called get authority, which will be called by Spring Security at the runtime to fetch the name of the authority and try to compare with your configurations or business logic that you have implemented. So let's try to go and see inside the code all these methods and interfaces. Now we are inside the user details interface. As you can see, there is a method called get authorities which will return a collection of objects which implements granted authority interface. I can go and see inside granted authority interface. There is a single method called get authority which will give my authority in the string format. We have many implementations of granted authority. One such is simple granted authority. As you can see, this is a class which implements granted authority and it has a method called get authority which will return the role or authority in a string format. So you can call with whatever name you want like role or authority. At the end, all these details are related to authorization or user level control access inside your application. Let's try and go inside our previous implementation that we have built. Here, I'm not going with the default user details manager like JDBC user details manager. So if you are going with in-memory or LDAP or JDBC user details manager, your return type will be user details where the authorities also will be stored. But here previously we have implemented our own authentication provider which will expect an authentication object as return type. As you can remember from our previous sections, authentication also is one of the schema representation of the user, and inside this interface also we have the same method like user details. Here you can see during authentication, I'm trying to load user details with email address. Once I have customer details, I will verify his password. Once the passwords everything is verified, I will try to load his role details from the database and convert into a simple granted authority, and while returning this authentication object, I pass username, password, and authorities. So now my framework Spring Security have an access to these authorities using get authorities method. So now we know how these authorities inside Spring Security will be stored and how those details will be loaded by the Spring Security. Let's try to see in the next video how I can really configure authorization of my an application, like this user with this roles only should be able to access this API path. Thank you and catch you in the next video. Bye.